Hi guys! I was actually gonna film another video for this week. I had it all planned out, I wrote the script and everything, but then something happened that made me feel like I wanted to talk to you about something different instead, and that is, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia this week. Now, seeing as fibromyalgia is an illness, this will probably be a bit longer and a bit more of a personal video. I don't really open up that much, but I figured I would try something new and talk about it here. So upon my diagnosis, I went onto YouTube, which I always do when there's something wrong in my life, and I started looking for a little bit of advice, someone who would tell their own story, etc. And I found that there wasn't a whole lot of videos, and so I decided that I would share my story as well. I guess I just figured that if I share my story, then we can support each other and we can get to learn more about fibromyalgia, because basically right now I'm at point 1. I'm just learning about this and I'm going to read up on what fibromyalgia is and how I can get better and all of those things, so we can support each other and learn together here on this channel. So first, I thought we would talk a little bit about what fibromyalgia actually is, and then we can move on to talking about my own struggle and battle with it for the past 5 years. Fibromyalgia is basically widespread pain throughout your body. You can have it in your joints, in your muscle, or other soft tissue. And this is accompanied by symptoms such as never feeling rested, like you'd go to bed equally as tired as when you wake up. You might experience depression and anxiety. You might have headaches. I suffer from sensitivity to light and sense and smell, amongst a lot of other things. What I will do is I will leave you a link in the description where you can read more about fibromyalgia and the symptoms if you're interested and would like to know more. At the moment, this is something that cannot be cured because they're not quite sure why fibromyalgia appears. It has something to do with the nerves in your body and how your body lets you experience more pain, as well as blood vessels. I recently read they discovered, but we will learn more about that in the future. But it also doesn't show up on blood tests, which can make it rather difficult to diagnose. For me, it took, as I said, 5 years. And you have all of these other illnesses that you will have to rule out because you can't really see anything from the blood tests. And here in Sweden, I felt like not a lot of doctors would be educated upon it and they would not want to help me with it. So I would usually be told that I didn't have anything wrong with me just because it didn't show up on blood tests, which is really sad because I've spent the past 5 years having to deal with something that made me feel really bad, basically. I find this video a little difficult to make, to be quite honest, because I've never talked about this openly. I have never told people about this openly, like even my close family, I don't talk about this with them that often, and they probably don't know a lot of this, and I've often experienced people not being very understanding, and so I'm nervous to make this video, but I feel like I need to make this video, and that's what I'm doing right now. So for the beginning of my journey, we start at the end of 2009 when there was this whole swine flu epidemic going on. A lot of people worldwide were getting sick, and we didn't really have a lot of people here in Sweden who were severely ill, I believe. But the media was writing a whole lot about it, people started getting worried, and I even remember us running out of hand sanitizer in pharmacies because we just used it all up being afraid of the swine flu, basically. And so it was decided that everyone who was going to school would get the shot for free. And I was a high school student at the time, so I was naturally vaccinated, and if you looked at all my peers, they would take the vaccine, feel okay, or some of them would be sick for a day or whatever, but I got really sick. I got sick for about 2.5 weeks. And the first batch of this vaccine is actually different from the one that you can get now. So it doesn't have the same components, but this is the one that a lot of people actually reported getting narcolepsy and other illnesses from. So this is what I think happened with me. I already had fibromyalgia in my genes, I would guess, because my mother has it, but it triggered it for me. So as I was saying, I was sick for 2.5 weeks, and after that we had Christmas and we had New Year's Eve, and about 1 or 2 weeks into January of 2010, I started getting pains in my right arm, and I didn't really think much about it at the time because I used to have really bad growing aches as a kid, and so I thought that that's just what it was because it felt exactly the same. It would come and go, and I found it a bit odd that I would experience growing aches at the age of 18, but I just didn't really think much about it. Like, the pain would be there and sometimes it wouldn't be, so I didn't think about it. But then 2 weeks after that, 1 or 2 weeks after that, it spread to my other arm, and that's when the pain started to get really, really bad. I remember this history lesson when I actually had to, walk out of there and call my dad, and I was really scared, and I told him that I have pain, and he just told me, go home, call the doctor. And this is basically where my 5-year-long journey started, with visiting doctors and all of that, and trying to be taken seriously, because I haven't really been taken seriously throughout this journey. By the time of my first doctor's appointment, the pain had actually spread to my entire body. Like, it had spread from my arms to my hands and fingers, to my hips, to my back, to my legs. I have it in my knees, I have it in my feet and my toes, and it's basically anywhere from the neck down. By then, it was just so bad. I stayed home from school for 8 weeks, and I just had to get help. Like, I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was really scared. I was 18 years old and I couldn't even cut my own pizza. I was legit scared about what was happening to me, and it was not feeling very good. And one thing that I found out throughout this journey of meeting with a whole bunch of doctors and trying to be taken seriously is that most doctors are not going to be like Dr. House. Like, if you've ever seen that show, Dr. House is fascinated by disease and illness, and he has to get it right. So there will be all these complicated things that no one could possibly have, and he will find it out after like a whole lot of trouble in the episode. But the doctors that you meet are definitely not going to be like that. I feel like most doctors would take blood tests and they would notice that they couldn't see anything, and they would tell me that I don't know how to help you, but I will send a referral to another person. And I would go to that doctor and they would basically do the exact same thing. They would take the blood tests, they would look at them and see nothing, and they would send me back to the first doctor, and I would just keep doing that. I always got sent back to square zero, and it just made me feel rather hopeless. And if I got paid any time a doctor insinuated that I was making things up, I would probably be rich by now, because basically every doctor that I've ever met told me that there was nothing wrong with me and that I was making things up. And naturally, being a very young person, experiencing a lot of pain, I would feel in my heart that they were wrong, but a thought started being born in my head that actually believed them. I know that the human mind is a pretty amazing thing, and if you want to get sick, you can probably get sick. You can imagine yourself sick. And so I started blaming myself. Like, I started thinking that this was probably my fault. I was probably bringing this upon myself. It was probably because I was lazy and I didn't want to do things. It was probably because I couldn't handle pressure or stress. And I was feeling these things because I didn't want to get healthy. And I started feeling this for real. I started getting really, really upset, and my confidence has sort of gone down since then, because I've actually been thinking of myself as someone who is bringing this pain upon myself. And I remember it being especially bad in 2014. I had waited quite a long while to be getting sent to a specialist, and she was a rheumatologist, and I thought that she would help me because fibromyalgia is under the category that rheumatologists would know about, I assumed. I would sit in her waiting room and I would read through all of the papers of all the different illnesses that one could have, and fibromyalgia was listed. By 2014, I was pretty sure that that's what I was having, because my mother had the same thing and we had basically the same symptoms, so I just guessed. I just had that hunch that that's what it is. And I get to go into her office, and she doesn't ask me about any of my problems. She checks my fingers pretty quick for arthritis, which I obviously don't have, and then she continues to lecture me for 20 minutes about how some people, you don't know why they have a little default in them, and I should just live with having a little bit of pain, and I should just accept it and move on. And she's telling this to a 22-year-old with her whole life ahead of her, and it just crushed me because that felt like my last hope. I had put so much weight on this doctor that I wanted to get help so bad. The reason why I was there in the first place was because I had missed an entire month of school, of university, and I needed help. Like, I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning because it hurts so much and because I'm so exhausted, and there I'm staring at a doctor and she's telling me just to deal with the little amount of pain that I'm having. Like, it just wasn't fair, and I think that that is a major flaw in our system. Everyone should deserve to be taken seriously. I wouldn't have gone to the doctor if I was making things up. It's stupid. You shouldn't tell someone that young that you should just live with something for the rest of your life. I have to live with this for the rest of my life, but now at least I know what it is and I can help it a little bit. For me, like, I just decided that I would believe her because obviously I thought that she was authority. She was a doctor and I was young and I didn't know anything about medical care. And she was like one amongst many that had told me that you just have nothing wrong with you. You should just accept it. And so I decided that that was what I was gonna do. And obviously that didn't last very long because you get to a point where you just push yourself and you push yourself and you don't feel well. You end up hitting a wall, and that's what I did at the end of 2015. So I went back to the doctor and I told him exactly what I wanted him to do, and he sent a referral to a place that actually knows what fibromyalgia is, and it took them 20 minutes to figure out that that's what I had. So, and I would just say that the worst thing by far with this journey is that being in constant pain all of the time can make you feel extremely lonely because the people around you won't be able to understand it. Like, I met a lot of doctors who couldn't understand it, but I also encountered a lot of people, like the close ones around me, they couldn't understand it, and it's natural. I am glad that they can't understand it because that means that they don't have to experience the pain that I experience every single day of my life. But it was really, really difficult because I couldn't explain it to them. I couldn't make them understand. It's like being a girl and trying to explain to a guy what menstrual cramps feel like. You just don't know how to explain it because they can't understand it. They can sympathize, but they wouldn't be able to know what it is that you're talking about. And that made me feel very lonely at times because my friends couldn't understand why I would have to cancel on things, why I couldn't go to that concert, or why I didn't show up to dance practice even though I was supposed to be there. The people around me couldn't always understand why I had to leave early or say no to certain things. And I would feel like I would ruin parties for everyone because I didn't feel like going clubbing when everyone else wanted to, and things like that. I'm still young, so it affected me in such a way that I felt like I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, and doing the things that I've been wanting to do has been such a struggle because I never knew how to handle it. So it's been really, really difficult for me, and going these 5 years without even having a name for it. Like, I couldn't tell my boyfriend what was wrong with me. I couldn't tell my father what was wrong with me. I couldn't tell anyone what was wrong with me, and it was really difficult. So I had to go and just explain, well, I have pains in my body, but obviously I was believing that I was making it up, so I would just feel so incredibly guilty about it. But now I have finally gotten confirmed that it is, in fact, fibromyalgia, and that makes me feel relieved and happier about myself because I don't have to feel guilty anymore, and I can tell my boyfriend, here's a book to read about what I experienced every single day. And I feel like from now on I can work on getting healthier and feeling better about myself. And if you're like me and you clicked onto this video because you have fibromyalgia, or you know someone that you love have fibromyalgia, or you think you have fibromyalgia, then I would love it if you would stick around or talk to me, because we can support each other and we can learn what fibromyalgia is together and try to feel as good as possible and thrive on our small little victories of doing the things that other people would consider being normal, but we know it's a victory. This channel that I have here, I currently use for different things. I talk about books and things that I like or thoughts that I have, and I'm gonna continue to do that because fibromyalgia isn't everything. I don't want to be reduced to my pain, but I am also sometimes going to talk about fibromyalgia because it is in fact a part of me, and I've been quiet about it for such a long time, and it's made me so sad and all of that. So I'm going to try to talk about it more because I think that it's important. I think it's important that people know more about this experience and what I'm experiencing and what people like me are experiencing, so that if someone young came and explained that they had pain, they wouldn't be told that you can't experience pain because you're young. But let's support each other through this struggle and all of that. And I'm sorry for getting emotional in this video. I just couldn't help it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm really grateful. I will see you soon. Bye!